Hello, my name is Richard Harrison and I'm here to talk you through the first scene of the film The 39 Steps. It was made in 1935 and directed by one of the great directors ever, Alfred Hitchcock. And you can tell that Hitchcock's career was established in the silent cinema by the introduction to this film. And by this stage, Hitchcock had actually been directing films for a decade, and you had this attention to visual detail that was very marked, and I think it really is highly effective in the opening of the 39 Steps. We have an opening shot which is a pan across the letters of the words music hall, and the music hall was a Victorian entertainment which was still very popular in the 1930s. Something I'd like to draw your attention to is the litter on the floor here, and the fact that we have our main character but we are not shown his face. We get to see him from the waist or from the back. So there's a strong visual introduction to this character that's setting up this idea of mystery. We don't know who this man is, we know nothing whatsoever about him. You saw the little number 5 indicated there in the lights, and that indicates the 5th act on the programme, which is this memory man. And the environment here is very much a working class one. You heard the baby crying, you've got people smoking, you've got people clustered together, still wearing their hats, as though they've just come in off the street, quite literally. And there's a little bit of sort of heckling and frivolity there when Mr. Memory is being introduced. They're not kind of just going to sit and listen necessarily. There's a bar as well, which is part of the room, which is over there, and you got a lovely shot a second ago of that, and those people are clustered and standing and drinking at the bar. So you've got this environment, working class environment, and you can ask this man anything at all and he will know the answer to it. There's a lovely comment here about the British Museum, and you then get this cheer from the chaps who are standing drinking at the bar, who all raise a glass, and it's rather sweet. The questions, what kind of questions are you going to give this audience to ask? Well, the first one is a frivolous question, of course, and slightly sort of salacious opening question.
A serious question, please. What won the Derby in...
You've then got something about horse racing, so the link there with kind of gossip and then with sport, and particularly working class sport.
You come back in 1937 and I'll tell you, sir. How far is Winnipeg from Montreal?
That's the first sensible question, and it comes from our leading character, which marks him out as an outsider, somebody who is different. But then that lad asks the question about football, and off we go again. The question about pip in poultry, well, this idea of a kind of illness or a disease, that something is wrong. So we've then got this whole barrage of questions, again, sort of about gossip, British heavyweight champion of the world. There's a patriotic sense there. So you've got other questions, this barrage of questions, which are all kind of on top of one another, and they are either to do with sport or they're to do with kind of gossip in some way. And that question about the British heavyweight champion is the kind of patriotic element. Our leading character, who is Richard Hannay, played by Robert Donat, he does get to ask his question, and there's a applause for the fact that he's come all the way from Canada. Canada, of course, is part of the British Empire at this time, so it would still be considered very much he's kind of one of them, as it were.
From Montreal, 1,424 miles. Am I right? Quite right.
Things begin to get a little bit rowdy at this point, and there's the implication here that people gathered together, working class people gathered together, things can go wrong relatively quickly and get out of hand, and almost could they be a revolutionary threat in some way, I don't know. But the MC tries to calm them down by telling them you're not at home, implying again that this is the way that they might actually behave in a domestic environment. And this poor chap is still trying to ask this question. And then the fact that gunfire, and then people run, and they run for the exits. There's nothing kind of organised about that at all. It's just a free-for-all as they flee from the scene. And you'll see in a second that Richard Hannay is actually very relaxed, and he seems to take this all in his stride. And you'll see as they exit the music hall, Hannay's with this lady, a man comes in from the frame on the left in a second and throws something onto the pavement, and that's the director, Alfred Hitchcock. That's one of his signature appearances in his films. And then, as if to give a neat twist of symmetry, that bust comes in from the right and then exits to the left. So there's a nice sense of symmetry in this opening scene. I love the film to bits. I think it's really fantastic. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend that you check it out. But that just gives you a little insight, I think, into the strong visual storytelling that's involved in that opening scene of the movie. And I think it's a terrific opening scene, and it sets up a number of themes and also the kind of style that we're going to see throughout the film as a whole.